This week, I got an urgent call from my dad asking me to come and visit him as soon as possible and check on my mom. He sounded worried, and I could tell right away that something was wrong. My mom had a stroke last month, and unfortunately, she hasn't shown much improvement since then. Her recovery has been slow, and it has been really tough on both my parents. My dad has been taking care of her every single day, handling everything she needs. He's her main caregiver and making sure she eats, takes her medication, and gets the help she requires. But it's been exhausting for him. Taking care of someone full-time, especially a loved one who's struggling, can take a huge emotional and physical toll. He called me because Mom had spiked a fever too, and that's why he needed extra support. Without hesitation, I knew I had to go. My dad needed help, and my mom needed me too. For context, my husband works as a traveling salesman, which means he's on the road for most of the time. His job requires him to go from place to place, meeting clients, closing deals, making sure everything's running smoothly. Because of this, he's rarely home for long stretches of time. It can be difficult, but we've gotten used to this lifestyle over the years, even though his schedule is demanding and keeps him away from home a lot. The job comes with good pay and solid insurance, which gives us a sense of security. That's something we're really grateful for, especially with everything going on right now. On top of that, him and I are currently expecting a baby together, which is both exciting and a little overwhelming. We already have a daughter named Rosie who just turned 2. She's full of energy and curiosity, always running around and keeping us on our toes. Ever since we told her she's going to be a big sister, she's been so excited. It's really sweet to see how much she's looking forward to meeting her new sibling. Right now, I'm still working, trying to keep up with everything while also preparing for the baby's arrival. Eventually, I'll go on maternity leave, but for now, I'm managing work, pregnancy, and taking care of Rosie all at the same time. Some days are easier than others, but I'm doing my best to stay on top of everything, even when things get overwhelming. This week, when I got the call from my dad, my husband was already at work. There was no way for me to discuss the situation with him in person, so I had to make a decision on my own. As soon as I heard my dad's voice, I could tell how exhausted he was. He sounded drained, both physically and emotionally. I didn't want to make things harder on him by asking too many questions, hesitating. I knew right away that I had to go, so I didn't argue or try to delay the trip. My first thought was to take my daughter with me. It seemed like the easiest option at first, but I quickly realized it might not be the best choice. Rosie is only 2, and she gets bored really easily when we visit my parents. They love her, of course, but they aren't the type to get down on the floor and play with her or keep her entertained for long periods. Whenever we've visited in the past, she's gotten restless and frustrated, which then leads to tantrums. Last thing I needed was to be dealing with that while also trying to help my dad and take care of my mom. That left me with my second option, asking my sister-in-law to watch Rosie. She has babysat for us before, so she knows Rosie well and is familiar with her routine. The problem was that she's only ever watched her for short periods, just a few hours here and there. Leaving Rosie with her for an extended time made me feel a little uneasy, but not because I didn't trust her to be responsible. The real issue is that my sister-in-law is a little too obsessed with Rosie. She absolutely adores her, which in most cases would seem like a good thing, but sometimes the way she acts around Rosie feels intense, almost like she forgets that she's not her child. For example, she often refers to Rosie as her baby, not just in a playful or affectionate way, but in a way that feels a little too serious. She'll say things like, "Come to mommy," when reaching for Rosie, or "You know you love me more than your real mom, right?" She laughs afterwards, but it always leaves me feeling really uneasy. Sister-in-law constantly buys Rosie expensive gifts, way beyond what's normal for an aunt. It's not just birthdays or holidays. She'll just randomly show up with designer clothes, personalized jewelry, or even toys Rosie isn't old enough for yet. Once, she gave Rosie a framed picture of just the two of them together for Rosie's room, which has Amor Mio engraved on it. This feels like something a parent would do, not an aunt. Sister-in-law also posts about Rosie constantly, even more than I do as her actual mom. She'll upload pictures without asking me first and write captions like, "My little angel, the love of my life," or "the only baby I'll ever need." It feels excessive, almost like she wants people to think Rosie is her child. The few times we've had someone else watch Rosie, like one of my close friends, my sister-in-law acts strangely jealous. She would ask me why we didn't ask her instead, and would make comments like, "I thought I was your go-to babysitter only. Rosie's very comfortable around me, so why leave her with someone else?" She would even seem upset if she found out that Rosie had a fun time with someone else. Because of all this, I hesitated before making the decision to leave Rosie with her. But she's family, so I figured that I could trust her, so I reached out to my sister-in-law to ask if she would be comfortable looking after Rosie. And before I could even finish my sentence, she was ecstatic. She didn't hesitate for even a second. Her voice immediately lit up with excitement, and she kept saying how thrilled she was to spend time with Rosie. "Oh my gosh, yes, I would love to. Thank you for letting me watch her. We're going to have so much fun," she exclaimed. Sister-in-law reassured me multiple times that she was more than happy to take care of our toddler and even told me not to worry about a thing. I also made it clear to her that I was going to pay her for everything, which she initially insisted wasn't necessary, but I felt that it was only fair since she'd been watching Rosie for more than just a couple of hours this time. Before leaving for my parents' place, I made sure to go over all the important details with my sister-in-law, including Rosie's allergy and what foods to avoid, along with a list of emergency contacts, mine, my husband's, and even our pediatrician's number, just in case. I wanted to make sure she had everything she needed to take care of Rosie properly. And when I told my husband about the plan, he was completely fine with this plan. He knew his sister adores Rosie, and since she had babysat before, he didn't even see any reason to worry. So, with everything arranged, I left feeling happy and reassured, thinking that Rosie would be in good hands. The next 4 days were spent entirely with my parents, making sure both of them were taken care of. It was exhausting, but I knew it was necessary. My dad, in particular, looked completely worn out. He had been handling everything on his own, and I could see just how much it had drained him. He barely had time to rest, and even when he did, he was constantly checking on my mom, making sure she had everything she needed. In the past, I had always tried to convince him to hire a nanny or some kind of professional caregiver to help with mom, but he always brushed it off. He would say things like, "I'm her husband, it's my job to take care of her." No matter how much I tried to reason with him, he refused to consider it. But this time I wasn't going to let it go. I saw firsthand how much he was struggling, and I knew that if this continued, he would wear himself down completely. No matter how much he loved her, he can't do everything alone. So I put my foot down. Without giving him the chance to argue, I went ahead and hired a nanny to help take care of mom. She was experienced, kind, and patient, exactly what my dad needed. Of course, he resisted at first. He felt guilty about it, like he was somehow failing mom by letting someone else step in. My parents are high school sweethearts, and they've been married for decades. With me living 3 hours away, I'm not always able to help. That's why hiring outside help was a necessity. Eventually, my dad accepted it, even though I could tell he still felt uneasy about the decision. But deep down, I knew he was relieved. For the first time in a long time, he didn't have to do everything by himself. During the time I was away, I made sure to check in with my sister-in-law every single day. I would call or text her to see how Rosie was doing. making sure she was eating well, sleeping on time, and not getting fussy. Each time my sister-in-law reassured me that everything was going great, she always sounded overly cheerful, telling me how much fun she and Rosie were having together. I didn't think much of it at first. I was just relieved that my daughter was being cared for while I focused on my parents. On the day I was supposed to return home, my husband got off work earlier than I did, so he went to pick up Rosie from my sister-in-law's place before I even got back. When I finally walked through the door that evening, the look on my husband's face immediately put me on edge. Before I could even ask what was wrong, he took a deep breath and said, "I need you to prepare yourself before you see Rosie." My heart instantly started pounding. My mind raced with terrible possibilities. Was my daughter hurt? Did she get sick? Did something happen while I was gone? I didn't wait for him to explain as I rushed past him, my whole body tense with worry, and ran to check on my baby. But when I saw her, she looked completely fine. I gave her a confused hug, not understanding why my husband warned me like that, but then my mouth almost dropped open in shock when I first noticed it. My sweet little daughter, my 2-year-old baby, had 2 earrings in her tiny ears. My head spun as I tried to process what I was seeing. I was completely flummoxed. Who did this to her? I turned to my husband, my voice shaking with anger as I demanded an answer. And that's when he sheepishly admitted the truth. It was his sister. I could barely believe what I was hearing. He explained that while I was away, my sister-in-law had taken it upon herself to take Rosie and get her ears pierced without our permission, without even mentioning it to us. She had made a major decision about our child's body as if she had the right to do so. I was furious, livid. My hands were shaking as I tried to contain my anger. My husband quickly reassured me that he was just as upset as I was, but then he hesitated. He looked like he had more to say. "That's not all," he finally admitted. My husband then took a deep breath before continuing, and I could tell by his expression that whatever he was about to say was going to make me even angrier. Then he went on to say something that made my blood run cold. While I was away, his sister had not only taken it upon herself to pierce our daughter's ears without our consent, but she had also secretly taken our 2-year-old to a casting call without telling either of us. I was stunned. I blinked at him, struggling to process what he had just said. A casting call? I could barely wrap my head around it. Before I could even react, my husband went on to explain that apparently my sister-in-law had taken some pictures of Rosie and mailed them to various agencies. This is how Rosie had been selected for some kind of role where she was expected to show up later that week for an official shooting. My husband told me that when he first found out about this, he completely lost it on his sister. He yelled at her, demanding to know what the hell she was thinking, mailing his toddler's pictures to random agencies. Instead of apologizing, sister-in-law actually defended what she did. She told him that our daughter was too pretty to not be in the industry and that she was doing us a favor by doing this for us. She kept insisting that Rosie was meant to be in front of the camera and that even the director of the casting call was pretty impressed with her looks. I was livid at that point. I could barely believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just overstepping boundaries. This was completely crossing the line into something disturbing. It was bad enough that she had gone behind our backs, but now some stranger, some director, knew what our daughter looked like, had seen her, and thought she was a good fit for something? This was our child, our baby, and my sister-in-law had made massive life-changing decisions for her without even bothering to ask us. Also, the reason sister-in-law had pierced our daughter's ears was to make her look even prettier for her upcoming shoot. Apparently, she told my husband that she thought earrings would make Rosie look more womanly and beautiful. She even had the audacity to tell him that one day, when Rosie is famous, we would thank her for it. Thank her? She really thought she had done us some kind of favor, like she had somehow improved our child's appearance, as if Rosie wasn't already perfect the way she was. I felt sick. My baby wasn't some doll for my sister-in-law to dress up and parade around. She wasn't some kind of product to be marketed for a career that she didn't even understand. And now, because of my sister-in-law's complete lack of boundaries, Rosie had been permanently altered with holes in her ears that we never agreed to, just so that she could fit into my sister-in-law's delusional vision of who she should be. I turned to my husband and made myself crystal clear. Your sister had absolutely no right to take our daughter to some casting call where grown men were sitting there judging her looks and deciding if she was good enough for whatever role they had in mind. She had no right to make decisions about our child's body, let alone pierce her ears without our consent. And she sure as hell had no right to act like she knows what's best for Rosie better than we do as her parents. My husband agreed with me and was just as much disgusted as I was. After that, I called up his sister so I could give her a piece of my mind. When I confronted her, she actually had the nerve to try and argue back. She kept telling me that it wasn't even a big deal and that there were hundreds of other parents with their children, so it was perfectly safe. She claimed that she was helping me unlock my child's potential. No matter what I said, sister-in-law continued to brush off my concerns like I was overreacting, telling me I was being too sensitive and that I should be grateful because she had opened doors for Rosie. She even had the audacity to tell me that every little girl should get their ears pierced young and that she was just helping us by making Rosie much prettier. That was it for me. I firmly told her that from this day forward, she would never see my daughter again. She had completely lost any right to be a part of Rosie's life, and as far as I was concerned, she was never going to be her aunt. And that's when she started crying, acting like she was the victim in all of this. She didn't apologize, though. Instead, she kept insisting I was being cruel and punishing her for no reason. She kept saying she had every right to be involved in Rosie's life because she's family. But I told her that family doesn't do this. Family doesn't go behind parents' backs and make decisions that aren't theirs to make, and then act like they're entitled to a child just because they're related. Since that day, she has been blowing up my husband's phone and sending text after text, begging him to convince me to change my mind. She keeps saying things like, I'm the one being unfair, and keeps refusing to acknowledge that she did anything wrong. So Reddit, aita for cutting my daughter off from my sister-in-law? Update 1. I just want to say thank you to everyone in the Reddit community who supported me and reassured me that I wasn't overreacting. Reading through your comments has helped me feel validated in my decision. Sister-in-law has been texting my husband non-stop, trying to convince him to get me to change my mind. We have pretty much ignored her and thought that eventually she would just give up on her own. However, today I was home alone with Rosie when I heard loud knocking at the front door. When I checked the peephole, there she was, my sister-in-law, standing there with this determined look on her face. I didn't want to deal with her, so I ignored the knocking, but she didn't leave. Instead, she started banging harder and shouting, I know you're in there. Let me in. I want to see Rosie. You can't just keep me from seeing her. I have a right to be in her life. I was beyond pissed at this point, and I cracked the door open just enough so that she could hear me and firmly told her to leave. But instead of backing off, she tried to push the door open and force her way inside. For the first time, I felt scared of her. I'm pregnant, so I was scared that she might hurt the baby too. Sister-in-law was acting like a deranged psychopath, and I didn't want her anywhere near my daughter, let alone me. I immediately pushed back and told her firmly, if you don't leave my property right now, I will call the police. Hearing this, she stopped and stammered something about me being too possessive and controlling over Rosie, like I was some kind of selfish mother for not letting her see my child. I didn't care. I stood my ground and told her this was her last warning. Either she left immediately or I was dialing 911. And that finally got through to her. She huffed in frustration and stormed off. Later that evening, my husband got home and I told him everything. He was furious that she had the audacity to come to our place and try to push her way in. Without hesitation, he grabbed his phone and called her on the spot. I could hear him yelling at her about how completely out of line she was, how she had no respect for boundaries, and how she was lucky I didn't actually call the cops on her. She made it crystal clear that he supported my decision, that she had no right to be involved in our child's life, and that after what she pulled today, she had only made things worse for herself. I didn't hear everything sister-in-law said in response, but I could tell she was still playing the victim. She kept insisting that she just wanted to talk and she didn't mean any harm, but my husband shut her down. At this point, both of us are on the same page. Sister-in-law is completely cut off. No contact and no more chances. She has crossed every possible line and there's no coming back from this. I don't know if she's going to try anything else, but if she does, I will not hesitate to take legal action. Rosie's safety and well-being will always come first. Update 2. Just when I thought my sister-in-law couldn't get any worse, she has managed to outdo herself today. This morning, both my husband and I received an email from her. At first, I thought it was just another desperate attempt to guilt trip us, but when I opened it, I was surprised. Attached to the email was a receipt, a literal invoice claiming that we owe her money for being Rosie's manager for a day. I had to read it twice because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. According to sister-in-law, she was working on our daughter's behalf when she took her to the casting call. So now she expects payment for her services. She even listed fees, gas money, consultation time, and even a finder's fee for getting Rosie the casting opportunity. The audacity! She also claimed that this was one of the reasons why she showed up at our house earlier and tried to force her way in, because she was there to settle business and get the money she was apparently owed. I was absolutely livid by how she was trying to gaslight us and acting like her behavior of trying to barge into our house was somehow justified due to this. My husband was just as furious. He immediately responded, telling her in no uncertain terms that we are not going to pay her a single penny. He made it clear to her that she decided to take our child behind our backs to these casting calls without our permission, and now she thinks she deserves money for it. Sister-in-law then started arguing back, saying that she invested her time and effort into Rosie's future career and that we're being selfish for not appreciating what she did. She even threatened to sue us for the money if we were not ready to pay her. At that point, my husband had enough and he told her, "Go ahead, sue us, because the moment you do, we'll take everything you've done straight to the court. How you pierced Rosie's ears without consent, how you secretly sent her pictures to casting agencies, and how you forced your way into our home. And we'll use it to get a restraining order against you." That finally shut her up. She hasn't responded since. Also, for everyone who has been worried about our safety, I just want to assure you that my husband and I are taking every precaution to protect our home and our daughter. After the stunt my sister-in-law pulled by trying to force her way into our house, we immediately ordered security cameras for our front door, backyard, and other key areas around our home. We're not taking any chances. If she even tries to show up uninvited again, we'll have video evidence to use against her. At this point, we're doing everything we can to make sure she stays far away from us. Update 3. It's been 7 months since everything happened and a lot has changed in our lives. The biggest and happiest change is that I gave birth to our son. My husband and I are overjoyed with our two beautiful children, and despite all the chaos that has happened, our little family feels whole. Rosie has adjusted well to being a big sister, and watching her bond with her baby brother has been one of the most heartwarming things I've ever experienced. The reason I'm back here, though, is because something unexpected happened recently. After all these months of complete silence, my sister-in-law, whom we had completely cut off, has suddenly reached out to me through an email. For the past several months, we haven't spoken a single word to her. My husband and I have both blocked her from contacting us, and she has never dared to show her face in front of us. But then, out of nowhere, she has written to me. And in the email, she's admitted that she's been seeing a therapist and that therapy has helped her reflect on everything that happened. She said she wanted to finally reach out to me and formally apologize for the way she treated me and for everything she did concerning Rosie. She wrote about how she had become too attached to our daughter and how at the time she didn't fully realize how inappropriate and overstepping her behavior was. She said she has spent a lot of time in therapy unpacking her feelings and that she has come to understand why she acted the way she did. Sister-in-law has confessed that she had always dreamed of becoming a mother herself, specifically of having a daughter, but that dream of hers never came true. For some added context, my sister-in-law is a divorcee. A few years ago, her husband left her, and the reason behind their divorce was because she was infertile and unable to have children of her own. I had always known that this was a painful subject for her, but I never realized just how much it had affected her until now. In her email, she explained that after her marriage ended, she struggled to accept that she would never get to experience motherhood. That loss weighed on her heavily. And over time, she started to project those feelings onto Rosie. She told me in her own words that since she knew she could never have a child of her own, she started to see my daughter as hers. Reading those words, I had to pause for a moment. On one hand, it did explain a lot. The way she had fixated on Rosie and treated her like she was hers, and even made choices about her body, it all made sense in a way. But on the other hand, just because she had wanted a daughter of her own didn't justify what she had done to us. It didn't erase the fact that she had violated our trust and overstepped in a way that no parent would allow. She went on to say that she truly never had any bad intentions when she took Rosie to the casting call, and she insisted that in her mind, she was just giving her an opportunity. But she also admitted that through therapy, she had come to realize how deeply wrong her actions were. She finally understood why we had cut her off, and why we were so furious, and why what she did was such a massive violation of trust. She ended her email with a formal apology. She said she was truly sorry for what she had done and for the pain she had caused. She assured me that she was actively getting help and was working on healing the part of herself that led her to act this way. And then her final words: I know I can never undo what I did, but if there is ever a day in the future where you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I would be truly grateful. For the first time since all of this has happened, sister-in-law was taking accountability. She was finally admitting that what she did was wrong. And part of me wonders if this is a genuine apology, if she had truly changed. But another part of me can't forget the betrayal I felt when she made choices for my daughter without my consent. And I'm not sure if an apology, no matter how well worded, can ever fix that. But for now, my husband and I have decided to continue keeping our distance from her. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.